Hello, everyone. I'm Matt Williamson, at Williamson NFL. Give me a follow there. We've been a couple days since we've chatted, and we now have a Final Four in the NFL after another great playoff weekend. Birdies are dead. I'm sure you're happy about that. Good stuff. Great game. I wanted to touch there, but I want to get back to the Steelers here in a minute. First of all, I think there's a lesson to be learned from what we saw over the weekend, that the Lions, who were the more talented and obviously favored team in their game, did an awful lot to lose the game. Well, I talk about this a ton with you guys. As many games in the NFL are lost as won, maybe more. And I think that gets magnified even in the postseason. And that brings me to the Ravens. I thought the Ravens were every bit the equal team down in, down out as the Bills. But they lost this football game from crucial errors. You know, Lamar had 2 turnovers that were rough. You know, Andrews had a turnover and drop passes. You know, I mean, when it mattered most. And I thought that this was an equal game. And frankly, I thought Baltimore was taking the game over in the second half and that they could run the ball at will. But they lost the football game. And to me, I think that is also a credit to the Bills and the Commanders and, you know, these teams that won as well. But if you look at like Josh Allen and Lamar, both these, but the thing that blew me away from both these guys, and frankly, I don't care who wins the MVP. It should be a co-MVP to me. But the thing that's really been minimized with these guys is mistakes throughout the year. I mean, those guys young in their career were wild horses, especially Allen. I mean, this is a little more true on both ends than Lamar for Allen. Wild horses, you know, tons of turnovers, but you live with it because Allen made all those big plays. Allen didn't take sacks, which is going to bring me to the second half of this, hardly at all this year. Hardly at all. And was at the bottom of the league in turnovers as well. The Bills took 14 sacks this year. 14, lowest in the league. And he didn't turn the ball over. And he didn't even attempt big-time downfield throws in this game. It was ball control. You know, run the ball well, be physical, play to your strengths, play to the elements, you know. And Lamar's done a ton of that this year, too. These guys have really progressed. And I know he's the enemy, but boy, I hope people today aren't saying, oh, Lamar's pretty good. He's a talented guy, but he's never going to win the big one. He's a choker. You're nuts if you think that's the case. Anyways, we'll get here to the Steelers in a second. BetOnline is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for online betting. From the earliest odds to in-game live betting, BetOnline provides you with all the action and ability to watch the games as they happen. With the largest selection of odds on everything from football, NBA, and college basketball, NHL, to UFC and MMA, head to BetOnline today to get on the action with America's most trusted site for online wagering. BetOnline, the game starts here. And real quick, just to go backwards, one thing I wanted to bring up. Now, I'm not implying the Steelers would have steamrolled through Philly and Baltimore and Cincy and Kansas City during this losing streak. But the Steelers were pretty good at beating themselves in those games, too. And they certainly would have been closer. You know, I mean, they gave too many gifts to playoff teams. And we've talked about this. This isn't new. I mean, it's 2 small examples, and there was a dozen or 2 dozen. You know, Russell Wilson scrambling, tries to make a play down at like the 3-yard line to get in the end zone. Ball pops out, boom. 94-yard drive, I think, is the result going the other way after that. You gave him a gift. A pitch play to Najee that hits him right in the chest, basically. Fumble. I know they called it on Wilson, but hand the ball to the other team just when you're starting to gain some momentum. Again, Steelers probably lose. They lose all those games probably, but you can't do that sort of thing against big-time teams. All right, anyway. I was fiddling as the games were going on yesterday with sack differential. Now, it's not nearly as important as turnover differential, but it is a very big indicator over the last decade or so of team success. You know, if you have more sacks than your opponent, it goes a real long way to victory. And some of that, and this is true for turnover success too, is due to game script. I mean, if you're winning by 10 late in games and you're rushing the passer a ton, you're going to get more sacks. You're also going to cause more turnovers, by the way. You know, so it's similar. But anyways, I didn't think the Steelers would be great in this department, but it was really startling to me how bad they were. I mean, so they allowed 9 more sacks than they produced. Okay, that's not great, obviously. I mean, below 0 is bad, just like turnover differential or whatever. But it's really bad. I mean, it was only better than 6 other teams. Only 6. I mean, bad teams. So, I mean, those teams were like the Bears, the Browns, the Patriots, the Titans, the Bengals, and the Raiders. I mean, you're talking about teams that are picking, and like all those teams are picking in the top 10 except for the Bengals. That's a company you're keeping in the sack department. Brutal. I mean, that can't be the case. So, obviously, the offense has something to do with it, and the defense has something to do with it. So, their sack percentage allowed was 8.9. So, this includes Fields and Wilson. 8.9% of Steeler dropbacks resulted in a sack. Now, that's only better than the Bears, Eagles, Browns, and Patriots. I mean, the worst offenses in the league and the Eagles, who hold the ball a long time and have a great offensive line. Now, that's part of the problem here, is Wilson and Fields take sacks, they hold the ball long. And that's where I went, was like, okay, well, let's look into that a little bit more. So the pressure rate the Steelers allowed this year, I mean, the sacks were bad, 8.9%, again, better than only 4 teams. But their pressure rate allowed was 12th worst. Now, that's better. It's not great. You'd rather it was 12th best or best. They allowed a pressure on 36.2% of their dropbacks, which is high, but it's not insane. I mean, it's more towards the middle of the league. But then I looked at it and thought, okay, is this just quarterbacks holding the ball? Or is this a massive O-line problem? And I'm sure it's both, right? You know, this is young O-line. Broderick Jones stinks. Dan Moore's falling apart late in the year. But this was really interesting to me. Time to pressure. How long does it take before they give up a pressure? It was really high. It's 2.92 seconds. Only teams better played yesterday, Baltimore and Kansas City. So what's that mean? Ball is snapped. My guys are holding their blocks for 2.92 seconds. Is a long time before pressure comes. I thought that was really encouraging because this O-line is going to be back. I don't know about the quarterbacks, but that's something I can start. I can work with that. If I get the ball out in 2.8, which is not long, or which is not all that short, let alone 2.5, 2.6, my pressure rate's going to go down dramatically. And of course, my sack rate will as well. So again, they're horrible in sack percentage. They're bad, but closer to average in pressure rate. But they're awesome in time to pressure. That's something to build on. The other side of the ball. I think you guys have caught on by now. One of my massive themes is going to be the Steelers need to lead the league in sacks. I don't care what else happens. They need to lead the league in sacks next year. And it's a problem. And it should be better. But here's where they are in these situations. And I know the ball comes out fast, but they're not at the bottom of the league in terms of having the ball out fast, or top, or however you want to look at it, quickest. Their sack percentage, 6.3%. Remember, they allowed a sack on 8.9. They're producing a sack on 6.3% of dropbacks. That's 18th best. Not great. That's for sure. And again, the ball comes out fast, blah, blah, blah. They don't have man corners. But still, you need to produce a sack more than 18th best. And to me, that means blitz. I mean, obviously. We've talked about this a lot, or you're going to hear about it a lot. So I'm not focusing on this side of the ball as much. But what was the Steelers' pressure rate? I mean, they at least like hurrying quarterbacks, getting a bunch of pressures, in, forcing throwaways, things like that. Sorta. It's 16th best. Right in the middle. Pressure rate at 33.8%. So their sack percentage, and I meant to say this about the offense, their number of sacks taken isn't crazy high because they don't throw the ball a lot. That's why I broke it down into percentages, and things like that, as opposed to who leads the league in sacks, who has the most sacks taken, blah, blah, blah. Because they don't drop back as much. But it's on the quarterbacks in terms of the Steelers, the offense. And the defense, though, is just right in the middle, which is so unacceptable to me. 16th best in pressure rate, 18th best in sack percentage. I've talked about it a lot. You're going to hear about it a ton. I would do everything in my power to change that. And it's not that hard to do. Because you got good blitzers and you got good pass rushers. So this is not blow smoke up your butt. Things are fine in Steeler land. They're not. They're a long way away from those teams we saw yesterday. But if it's the O-line allowing pressures very late in the down and great pass rushers not getting home, mostly because of scheme, I can work with that. Can they? Who knows? But we're not.